Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Live at 4. Catherine Merck is with us today.
Yes, I am.
It's Friday.
I've been so excited to say that.
It's good to have you here.
The best day of the week to
yes,
be on
it
the
is,
floor.
absolutely.
Yes.
We have lots going on, so let's get started. State lawmakers are considering changing the language in Wisconsin's 1849 law that banned abortions. Will Keneally tells us how that could change, how that change would affect women seeking an abortion.
The bill to avert default is now headed to the president's desk. I'm Natalie Brand at the White House with new reaction to the deal.
Healthcare officials say they're changing the way they offer services and want you to consider the alternatives. Tahlil Mohadeen tells us more.
Lots coming up. Let's first take a look outside. This guy's got the right idea on a day like today.
For real.
A little stand-up paddleboarding. Oh, that's a great shot.
Preparing for weekend heat.
Yes, I don't know if we can prepare for that much.
Oh.
This is a way to prepare for it. Julian's in the backyard. Kind of warm out there.
Yeah, that's an understatement, Mark. But hey, it is Friday, and we are into the second day of June. So at least it's starting to feel a whole lot like summer, like it has been over the last couple of days. Getting straight into our forecast, we're going to look for this to be very warm and hot over the next couple of hours. But we also have an air quality advisory once again for southern Wisconsin until 11 p.m. Because of this heat, we have that high level of ozone once again that will stick around until about 11 p.m. For areas like northern Illinois, that'll be until about midnight. But with this heat, we actually do have some spots where it has been showers and even thunderstorms, mainly to the southwest of Dane County. And again, it's very spotty. Almost 80%, if not 90% of us haven't seen a thing of rain. But once we get to the next 3 hours, we could start to see Madison having a couple spot-up showers, maybe even a thunderstorm. But overall, things are going to be relatively quiet. Cloud cover is starting to build, and temperatures are also hot. We're looking into those upper 80s, mid-80s throughout the rest of this evening. And folks, once we get into tonight, it's still going to be rather mild. We'll talk more about what we can expect with this weekend in a few moments. But until then, let's take a look at our traffic as of right now. Eastbound, heading towards Monona's, where we're seeing some slow spots, but overall, we are looking at pretty normal traffic as we get into the 4 p.m. hour. We'll talk more about that weekend heat in a few moments. Until then, over to you.
All right, Julian, thank you. Wisconsin's 1849 abortion ban was a defining issue for this spring's pivotal Supreme Court election.
A new package of bills introduced in the state capitol this week would alter some of the language in that ban. Political reporter Will Keneally has more.
So we've seen a few attempts already by Republicans to alter the state's 100-plus-year-old abortion ban. Now, Republicans in the Assembly floated earlier this year changes that would add exceptions for rape or incest into the otherwise narrow ban. The current abortion ban does have a provision to allow for abortions to save the life of the mother, and this GOP bill would define exactly what that means.
Let's make it crystal clear. Let's make sure there's no ambiguity and that physicians can treat women when they have medical complications in those situations. So that's why we wanted to clarify and redefine this to make it clear for everyone, all parties.
Right now, abortions have been effectively blocked in Wisconsin. Doctors have expressed concerns about some of the gray areas in the current law. Now, the legislation boils down to intent, whether the intent of the abortion provider is to save the life of the mother. But that can pose some sticking points when we talk about an act that would otherwise be criminal. And this is part of a broader discussion that we had with the bill's author. You can see that full interview this Sunday on For the Record, airing after Face the Nation.
All right, thank you, Will. This morning, the Wisconsin Freemasons announced a significant donation to the Wisconsin State Patrol to provide life-saving care in vehicles across the state. Each emergency jump kit will contain one state-of-the-art fire suppression tool, along with a device for cardiac assistance. Putting the tools together in a bright yellow jump bag in the trunks of State Patrol vehicles is supposed to increase and enhance public safety throughout the state.
I know 57 units is a good start, right? And I know the goal is to get every single one, but every single one of those pieces of equipment have the potential to save a life. And I wish that we had them all right now.
In the past 5 years, Wisconsin State Patrol has been deployed to administer CPR more than 700 times, has been called to almost 2,500 fires, and responded to another 1,000 medical emergencies. Having these life-saving tools in their vehicles is supposed to help save additional property and lives.
Healthcare officials say they are changing the way they offer services and want you to consider the alternatives.
This comes as hospitals and clinics are struggling to keep up with patient demand for primary care doctors' appointments. Tahlil Mohadeen joins us now to share how providers are expanding their access.
Officials at SSM Health say for the most common health issues, doctors aren't really needed, let alone in person. So instead, they want patients to first look to advanced practice providers like nurse practitioners or physician's assistants. The focus right now is on express virtual care, at least to start. You can get a telehealth appointment with an NP or a PA at SSM in as quickly as 20 minutes, but to see a doctor in person, that can take weeks. With an ongoing primary care physician shortage, the idea there is to free doctors up to take on more complex cases and get everyone access sooner.
I would just encourage patients to say, try these new modals of care that we're providing. They're safe, they're good, they're effective, they are the future. If they still want to see a physician, that it's just going to take them more time to get in to be seen.
SSM Health officials say if you're unclear how serious your case is, they have tools to help you navigate that. NPs and PAs can also help escalate patients to urgent care or get them in to see a doctor sooner if need be. Express virtual care at SSM is also open for much longer hours than a traditional clinic and can prescribe medication. Doctors say common ailments addressed are things like sprained ankles or respiratory infections.
Well, thank you. Students in the Madison Metropolitan School District will soon be treated to garden-grown food. The new program, started by the Wisconsin nonprofit Rooted, aims to get kids growing fresh lettuce and herbs. These plants are going to be shared with the students as a source of fresh and healthy food through the school lunch program. The project hopes to eliminate some inequalities in student lunch programs around Madison.
The search for survivors in a partially collapsed apartment building in Davenport, Iowa, is over. During an update this morning, the mayor announced the focus is shifting to recovery efforts. Specialized teams are working on reinforcing what's left of the building so recovery efforts can begin. 2 urban search and recovery teams are now preparing to comb through the wreckage, but officials admit there are challenges.
We do what the building tells us to do. This building, as I've stated, is very dynamic. As the temperature rises up and down during the day, this building is expanding and contracting. So it's talking to us. It's telling us what it wants to do.
The mayor says there's no timetable for demolishing the structure. The building collapsed Sunday afternoon. Rescue crews pulled or escorted at least 19 people from the debris. As of Thursday, 3 people were still unaccounted for and feared dead.
At least 7 people were injured in New Haven, Connecticut after a building collapsed near the Yale School of Medicine. No one is reported dead, but 2 are in critical condition. Cement workers were pouring concrete on the 2nd floor of the building, and they think that was the cause of the collapse. There is currently an active search for anyone left in the building before the wet concrete dries. An investigation into this collapse is taking place with OSHA already at the site, and they're trying to see what other possible causes may exist for the building's collapse. President Biden says he'll soon sign the bipartisan bill that raises the nation's debt ceiling and cuts spending.
The legislation allows the U.S. government to pay its bills, averting a default and potential economic crisis. Natalie Brand is at the White House with the latest.
President Biden is addressing the nation tonight on the deal that heads off a historic default.
There is a gravity, as you all can imagine, of this moment. And so the president wanted to make sure that he addressed the American people directly.
The bill is passed.
The Senate passed the bipartisan measure late Thursday with more than 60 voting in favor. The bill raises the nation's debt limit beyond the 2024 presidential election. The Congressional Budget Office estimates it also cuts spending by about $1.5 trillion over the next decade. In a last-minute negotiation, Senate leaders pledged commitments to consider emergency spending down the road and additional military aid to support the war in Ukraine, after some GOP senators raised concerns about limits to defense spending.
There's not a penny in this budget to help beat Putin.
President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy negotiated the deal. Political analysts say the mixed reviews from lawmakers across the political spectrum make it the very definition of compromise.
Both sides actually made concessions, and we should be, as Americans, proud about seeing our government work in such a fashion.
Joe Biden came into this saying that he refused to negotiate, and at the end of the day, he finally caved and gave Republicans some spending cuts that we needed as a country.
The bill now heads to the White House for a signature just ahead of Monday's deadline, when the Treasury Secretary said the U.S. would start running short of cash to pay its bills. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Back here in Wisconsin, more than 8 months after a popular McFarland Supper Club shut down because of significant damage from a fire, the restaurant's managers have announced plans to reopen in late June. In a Facebook post shared last night, Maple Tree Supper Club's managers announced they will reopen on June 27th, saying they're excited to be back and serve all of our wonderful customers. The restaurant temporarily shut down in October 2022 after a fire that started in the kitchen and caused major damage to that kitchen, dining room, and roof.
Well, Madison's famous Attic Angel sale is up and running for its 63rd year at Kiva Sports Center in Middleton. The event is like a community-wide garage sale that has grown so big it fills a sports complex. The sale features gently used furniture, artwork, jewelry, household and kitchen items, linens, toys, and sporting goods. Proceeds benefit children and seniors in Dane County.
We are lucky that all of this inventory is donated. We'll start taking donations again July 15th if people would like to donate. All of our inventory is donated, so it's the people of the area donating so that we can sell it and give back to those in need.
The attic sale just ended at 4 o'clock this afternoon. However, it'll start back up tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. 3/4 of the proceeds are distributed via grants to other community nonprofit agencies that meet this year's focus of helping families with school-aged children to address housing insecurity. The remaining amount provides a safety net for seniors who've outlived their financial resources. Well, it's going to be a busy morning in downtown Madison tomorrow. Thousands will be shopping at the farmers market.
And some cows will join the crowd. We'll preview cows on the concourse with a special guest when Live at 4 continues.
You're watching News 3 Now, Live at 4.
Well, welcome back. As the weather gets warmer, many of us will head outdoors.
But if you're one of the millions of Americans who live with asthma, this time of year can be difficult. That's because of some of the smaller air particles that can be in the air during this time. They're hard to breathe in. Research has shown in the summer weather, it may be difficult for those who have asthma.
Anybody who is at risk of worsening of asthma related to this, can really notice worsening of their symptoms and have increased risk of needing to go to the emergency room and even hospitalization following a phenomenon like this.
And it's not just storms. The doctor says there are many triggers that can make asthma worse during the summer, including mold from heat and humidity, pollen from trees and grasses, and smoke from things like wildfires, which can travel long distances. She says to be aware of worsening symptoms, and since everybody is different, know your triggers. Have a plan with your doctor on what to do if symptoms worsen, and pay attention to the weather around you.
NASA wants you to get in on the Europa Clipper mission by adding your name to an original poem penned by U.S. poet Ada Limon titled In Praise of Mystery, a Poem for Europa. The poem will be aboard the spacecraft when it blasts off in October of 2024. The spacecraft will then travel billions of miles to Jupiter's moon Europa, where it'll investigate if the ocean thought to lie beneath Europa's icy crust could support life. You can sign and read the poem and hear Limon recite an animated video at go.nasa.gov/message in a bottle.
A better than expected jobs report shows employers added 339,000 jobs in May, the best since January. But the unemployment rate rose to 3.7%, up from a 5-decade low in April. Job numbers for the 2 previous months were up, showing a labor market that continues to absorb inflation. Plus, a string of rate hikes from the Fed had signaled a potential pause at its upcoming meeting.
Given the strength of this report, we have to assume that a rate increase is back on the table.
The youth labor force typically grows this time of year, which could help fill a nationwide lifeguard shortage that's happening right now. Many cities have increased pay and are offering bonuses to get guards back in the pool. The jobs report shows a shorter work week for some and a slowdown in wages, part of a complex jobs picture.
Stocks rally after the job report was released. The Dow Industrial is up over 2%, gaining 700 points. The NASDAQ gained 139 points. The S&P 500 was up 61.
Well, it's National Dairy Month, and this Today, we're going to be joined by Cows on the Concourse here, celebrating Dairy Month.
Sydney Flick is here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Cows on the Concourse tomorrow on the Capitol Square.
Indeed, we will be there from 8 to 1.
And who's your special friend here today?
This is our friend Lucy. She's from my family's farm, and she was just born this morning.
Really?
This morning?
Yes.
Well, then happy birthday, I guess.
Right?
How many cows do you have?
We milk about 700 cows. It's my family's farm, and so we have about 3 new calves a day.
So tell us about what this will look like for families this weekend.
It is going to be so much fun. We are going to bring the cows to you in downtown Madison, and we'll have different breeds of cows, different ages of cows. We will have grilled cheese, a scavenger hunt, and fun educational activities.
How important is the dairy industry to Dane County?
To Dane County, it's really important, and to the state of Wisconsin. There are so many family farms throughout Dane County, but all across the state as well. It's a part of our history, and it's really a part of our economy still as well.
But there's some farmers are facing some tough times right now. Grain prices are up, fuel prices are up. It's got to be a little tough.
The markets always go up and down, and that's something as farmers that you have to work with and you plan for. After a down, there eventually will be an up, but it has gotten harder.
But the reward is worth it.
It is, and farmers will tell you that while it is hard, they love working with their land and they love working with their animals. They care about them so much.
So right now we're literally inches from some of these calves. How close are families going to get this weekend?
You will be able to touch them as long as you wash your hands after.
And there's other things going on. There's grilled cheese sandwiches, all sorts of things.
Yes, My Dairyland scavenger hunt, and there will be the farmers market as well, but you'll be able to make some milk fireworks, and you'll even be able to plant your own seed to take home with you.
Milk fireworks?
It's something with milk and soap and food coloring, and it makes pretty colors.
And you're on Martin Luther King Boulevard, just right off the square.
Yes, the 100 block right off the square.
And how many cows are going to be there?
We will have about 14 cows there.
Okay, exciting.
Very exciting.
And how important is June Dairy Month?
National Dairy Month celebrates dairy in Wisconsin. I think it's even more important to the state of Wisconsin than a lot of other places. It's a time to celebrate our farm families and everything that happens with dairy in our state.
So tomorrow morning from
8 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Come down and touch a cow and have some milk fireworks.
Exactly. And then next weekend you can join us at the Dane County Breakfast on the Farm as well.
And where's that?
That is going to be at the Call Family Farm in Belleville.
Lots of family fun on the way for you all.
Have a great event.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being with us today. Good. Oh, are we sleeping already? Oh. She had her first feeding, I guess, right? Thanks for coming out, Sydney, and bringing your friend. All right, still to come before the presidential election is still over a year and a half away.
And the number of Republican hopefuls continues to grow. Plus, we'll have Julian's full forecast coming up.
Well, take a look at this. A unique tourist destination has popped up in western Wisconsin and is being called the Badger State's answer to Stonehenge. Its official name is Kingstone. This 30-acre property features its own megalithic circular formations and stacked structures featuring some rocks weighing over 70,000 pounds. It's only a stone's throw from the Minnesota border, and its owners say visitors come from all over to take in the tranquility.
Wow, so much mystery with Stonehenge. Kind of makes me wonder the same questions. How'd they get here? Where's that from?
Well, this guy built this one, so we know where this one came from.
Well, then there.
Maybe a little road trip sometime to Minneapolis, stop off at the Kingstone.
Yeah, well, I would like to. And especially once we get this weather starting to cooperate a little bit more, road trips actually be a little bit more better for us, you know?
We were just out. It wasn't as hot as I thought it was going to be.
We were also in the shade.
We're in the shade, there's a little breeze.
That's right.
That helps.
But without that, it's still feeling a bit muggy outside, and we'll be talking about how much longer we can deal with that mugginess until we start to see some changes with the First One forecast after the break. Over the last several days, we've been having this trend of warm, very warm, and even hot conditions. And that trend looks to continue once we get into this weekend as well. For us here in Madison, we're looking at Saturday to be into the 90s. And on top of it, and we're looking for potential of seeing a thunderstorm by the time we get into our afternoon. But once we get into Sunday, a little bit of a change. It's not going to be nearly as hot. We're looking at very warm conditions into the middle 80s. But folks, as I mentioned, we've had a trend where it's been warm, very warm, and even hot. So one thing we need to start to discuss now that we are into our second day of June is some heat facts, because heat is one of the most fatal weather-related hazards that we have. On top of it, on average, about 700 people die or recorded deaths per year from heat-related illnesses. And that's one of the main reasons why we say never leave anybody or anything, like an animal or pet, inside of your car. So speaking of, this is the one thing we're going to be watching for. Getting into what we're expecting, folks, 90 degrees heading into tomorrow. And on top of it, this is how it could be impacting us. We're looking at 90 degrees, but it could also really start to heat up rather quickly inside of your car. Within 10 minutes, it's already into 109 degrees for us. And on top of it, you can see around 30 minutes. Issues around 124 degrees, which can be fatal within that time frame, which is why we really do urge you to never leave anybody within your car for any kind of moments, or for more moments than a quick moment, sorry. And on top of that, just try to make things rather quickly because they can't be fatal. Now, one thing we're going to be watching for outside of that is this weekend. So temperatures will be in the 90s. It's going to be perfect for boating and for those just to hit onto the water itself. For Sunday, 85 degrees, still very warm, still plenty of sunshine. So if you want to bathe in the sun, it's going to be nice. Just make sure that you are staying hydrated and on top of it, finding some shade if need be. Now, taking a look at our radar, we are looking at some pop-up showers, especially just to the south and west of Madison and Dane County, near Greene County and north of Monroe. But it's not very widespread. Over the next 3 hours, we might start to see it stretch its way into parts of Madison, but overall, it's not going to be looking to be very widespread once again throughout much of southern Wisconsin. One thing that was interesting, though, is that yesterday we did have some storms that moved their way through, and it was actually a quick little land spout that had developed over towards Darien. Now, it was very quick spin up around 5:24 yesterday, where we saw that cell, those moving and developing just north of Highway 14. But it was just one of those interesting things that really can spawn from this randomness that happens every time it's warm, hot, and definitely sunny. So planning out the rest of our future track, we're expecting those spotty showers, maybe even a thunderstorm here or there, but then it's going to be quiet once again for tonight. Temperatures will be into the 60s. Going to be another mild one for us carrying into our Saturday, where we're not expecting too much in change. Going to be looking for those warmer, hotter temperatures by the time we get into the afternoon, then some quick spawn-up showers once again around Dane County, Columbia, and even north of Monroe. That's going to be possible for the early parts of our afternoon, but clearing up once we get into our Saturday nights. We're not looking for much more in terms of precipitation heading into this weekend, so that's one thing that we definitely need some rain, but you're not going to have to worry about a washout for the weekend. A quick look at our 7-day forecast from the First Warn Weather Team. The good news is we're actually looking for a cool down. More normal temperatures by the time we get into Tuesday. We'll be seeing those upper 70s, but for this weekend, make sure that you are, once again, staying hydrated. If you're going to be out in the sun for an extended amount of time, sunscreen is always a recommended choice. Otherwise, we'll be cooling down to more favorable conditions, for me at least, into the upper 70s. And then we'll warm back up for next weekend, but we're at least more balanced than just seeing 90-degree temperatures across the board.
Lots of outdoor stuff going on tomorrow, so be careful.
Exactly.
Stay hydrated.
Hydration, find your cool spots, and on top of it, sunscreen, people. It really does matter.
And maybe go early.
Yeah, awesome.
Go to the cows like at 10 o'clock, don't wait till later.
Yeah.
Or 8 o'clock. Like 8 o'clock, they start. All right. Thank you, Julian. Well, it looks like Republicans will have a lot of choices for their presidential nominee as more GOP candidates throw their hats into the ring.
Right now, only one candidate has been able to stand out in the already crowded field as all eyes continue to be focused on former President Donald Trump.
Jeff Zeleny reports.
So far, Donald Trump is getting most everything he wanted from the Republican presidential campaign.
There's no way I can lose Iowa. Let's see what happens. I don't think so. We'd have to do some really bad things to lose at this point.
Including a list of rivals that's growing by the week, with the anyone but Trump lane of the race becoming remarkably crowded.
I think it's advantageous to Trump. I don't like that.
Julie Marley is a loyal Republican who came to see Florida Governor Ron DeSantis the other night and is sizing up several contenders. But she offered pointed words of advice for those entering the race.
Stay for a while, see what happens, but then don't stay too long because we need to beat the Democrats.
As summer approaches, the Republican field is starting to burst at the seams, with former Vice President Mike Pence and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie set to jump in next week, joining former Governor Nikki Haley and Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, who are already in the race. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum is also poised to announce next week, and New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu promises a decision soon. And Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin is not ruling out a run later this year, if some contenders flame out.
Well, if that many candidates stay in the race, that benefits Trump. Trump will win by the power division. And that's why we'll see if we learned our lesson well.
Bob Vanderplatz, an influential evangelical leader in Iowa, said the party should not repeat the mistakes of 2016, when Trump claimed the nomination with a divided Republican electorate, rather than facing a head-to-head match with one strong opponent.
So my concern is, how many get in? It's when do they get out? And when do they give America a clear choice between the former president and an alternative?
A big field is precisely what Trump is banking on and basking in, as he shook hands and took questions at a series of small events in Iowa, while making clear he's fixated on one rival above all.
Ron, as I call him, Ron DeSanctimonious.
The former president seized upon a leading argument DeSantis made to voters here this week.
We could bring back George Washington. I don't know that he would be able to get it done in just 4 years.
And sought to mock the Florida governor's pitch that he's eligible for 2 terms, not simply one more like Trump.
You don't need 8 years, you need 6 months. We can turn this thing around so quickly. Who the hell wants to wait 8 years? You don't need 8 years.
And in New Hampshire today, DeSantis hitting back at Trump.
Why didn't he do it his first 4 years?
As the campaign intensifies, signs are emerging that it's far too early to presume it's a two-man contest, as candidates begin blanketing the state that begins the Republican nomination battle early next year. Lori Hartson also believes the field is cluttered. In her mind, it's already a one-man race.
President Trump already made America great. Now we need him back to fix it.
She drove 4 hours to catch a glimpse of the former president outside one of his Iowa stops.
Do you think that others should step aside and let him run and focus on President Biden? Or do you think a competitive Republican primary is fine?
I wish they would step aside, but they won't. And I don't know if it's ego. They won't. And more keep coming in. It's like, come on, Mike Pence. Really, Mike, give it up.
Well, speaking of Mike Pence, according to sources, the former VP will announce his 2024 presidential bid in Iowa on June 7th. Well, coming up next here on Live, before we take a sneak peek at the newest Spider-Man movie, Across the Spider-Verse.
Yes, and then at 5, political reporter Will Keneally spoke with UW Systems president about the future of funding for the university.
Given the weather satellite a spin, we end up in, what is it, San Francisco?
I think so. I wonder if it's as hot there as it is here.
No, it's not. It's 59 degrees, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Wow, how do we get their weather?
Yeah.
How do we get that?
Nice cool breeze coming off the ocean.
That sounds wonderful right now, wow.
Yeah. Well, the sequel to the Oscar-winning animated Spider-Man movie swings into theaters this weekend.
Rick Damigella reports.
My name is Miles Morales. I'm Brooklyn's one and only Spider-Man.
Shameik Moore is back as the voice of Miles Morales in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Miles! Want to get out of here? Oh, when? So wait a minute. There's an elite crew with all the best spider people in it? Who's the new guy?
The animated adventure is the sequel to 2018's Academy Award-winning Into the Spider-Verse.
This is one of those movies that you know while you're watching it that you need to watch it many more times. And that was true for a couple of reasons while I was in this theater, which was packed with people in Spider people costumes, whether they were Gwen Stacy or Miles Morales or versions of Peter Parker. It was wonderful. But the movie is jam-packed with information and lore and visual effects and flourishes.
What's a guy got to do to join this spider team?
What's happening in the sequel is an expansion into the literal Spider-Verse, and we get a lot more vignettes and appearances of different spider people from across this multiverse that is being crafted.
What about Uncle Ben?
If not for Uncle Ben, most of us wouldn't be here.
Just like the first film, which was an Oscar-winning picture, and deservedly so, this is a movie that I think is going to transform the animation industry and transform creativity across the spectrum, because it's so rife and so filled with imagination and inspiration and love, man.
Everyone keeps telling me how my story is supposed to go. Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
And we will find out what Will Loper thinks about the Spider-Man movie, Spider-Verse.
Right, the last one had a good soundtrack.
Yeah, Oscar winning.
Right, yeah.
All right, back before it was turned into a pedestrian mall, there were lots of cars on State Street.
That will be the case once again tomorrow. We'll preview this year's Cars on State event when Live at 4 continues.
And a quick update on our traffic as we're getting our Friday afternoon rolling for us. Well, it's pretty typical for this time of day, though. We are looking at slow spots, which has been rather slow throughout much of this week over towards Monona eastbound on the Beltline. Otherwise, though, things are pretty typical. And as we take a look at the interstate southbound, or actually northbound, is where we're looking at some slow spots just off of to the interstate. Actually, just got even slower. We're looking at some delays over towards the northbound side of I-39. So just expect a little bit of delays as you're starting to hit the roads. That'll do it for our traffic. Over to you.
All right. Thank you, Julian. The winner of the 2023 Scripps National Spelling Bee was crowned last night.
14-year-old Dev Shaw is taking home more than $50,000 in cash prizes after nailing his final word here, Samophile. Don't ask me to spell that as I'm reading off the prompter here. Spelling at this level with the pressure of the final round of the Scripps National Spelling Bee is already hard, but after 15 rounds and 11 amazing finalists, only one could come out on top. Samophile means an organism that thrives in sandy soils. Dev Shaw from the Tampa Bay, Florida region had a quiet confidence when spelling the winning word.
P-S-A-M-O-P-H-I-L-E, Samophile?
That is correct. After years of trying and at one point thinking of throwing in the towel, the 14-year-old is now the champion of the 95th Scripps National Spelling Bee. That's exciting.
Those words, you've never heard of them before. Congratulations to him.
Yeah, congratulations. One of Madison's great downtown summer traditions, the 14th annual Cars on State, returns tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
The free show spans 6 blocks of State Street. Take a stroll around the farmers market, check out cows on the concourse, and then head down State Street to check out all the classic cars.
Live on State Street to talk about the event is Cass Salas, one of the event organizers. Hello, hello.
Hi, Cass.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. First off, tell us about the cars that you have there.
I've got a 66 Ford Mustang. It's classic. It's been around for quite a while. 64.5 was the first year. And after 69, they started to change the body style, but this is the original classic style of the coupe, two-door coupe.
And that's your car?
That's my car.
Congratulations.
And I'm seeing a car behind you that a lot of people might recognize as well.
Yes, that's the 1982 DeLorean. That is the Back to the Future car. It was a replica of the one that Marty McFly drove in Back to the Future.
Does it have the flux capacitor?
Yes, it's got the flux capacitor. It's got all the gizmos in it. Kevin and Steve were the ones that took 2 years to build this car. And Steve used to work in California, and with that, he used to work on this car. So he knew all the gadgets and knew where to get everything. So it made it easier for them to make it an actual replica of the car at the show.
Is that street worthy?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Wow.
All right, what constitutes a classic vintage car rather than just an old car?
Right, right.
Well, first, can't be an old junker. They are classics, but something you want to put on the street. It's got to be at least 20 years old to be a classic, and it takes a little bit going through motor vehicle department to get it registered as a classic. You have to have pictures on it and stuff, and it's got to be pretty original.
So tell us a little bit about this weekend. How many cars are going to be there?
Okay, this is our first year back since COVID, and it took a little bit of a struggle through Don Beauchamp and myself, and we were able to get 122 cars that'll line up the street. It'll go from the top of State Street, the 100 block, all the way down to the 500 and 600 blocks.
And it's obviously free. Are the owners of the cars going to be there to tell their story, or? or not?
Yes, the owners will be all around their car, answering any questions, showing pictures, talking with whoever comes up and has any questions for them. A lot of times we will get people that will come down and say, oh, my mom and dad used to own this car, my grandpa used to, or we used to ride in something like this. It wasn't the same color, but it was the same car. And it just brings back a lot of memories for these families.
Absolutely.
Right. And how long will the cars be out there?
The cars will be on the street from 9 a.m. till 3 o'clock.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm coming down there because I'm a car freak. Cass, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We've got the skateboard in there from Back to the Future. Pretty
Lots
cool.
of people are going to like that for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, we'll be right back with the final check of your forecast.
A quick recap on our weather heading into the weekend. Here's our 3 things we'll need to know. Temperatures will be near 90 degrees through Saturday, but we are looking for a little bit not as hot by cooler temperatures heading into Sunday, which will be into the mid-80s. We do have a possible thunderstorm chance for Saturday afternoon. Otherwise, mild conditions will return finally once we get into next week. So your first warning is that we're going to be into the upper 70s from Tuesday through Thursday of next week, warming up just a bit heading into next weekend. But folks, the real takeaway from this forecast is not just the temperatures, but still not a whole lot of opportunities for showers or rain in our forecast. So we may continue a bit of that dry trend for the vast majority of us, and we'll be talking about this more coming up at 5 with Chief Meteorologist Gary Canolti.
All right, take it easy this weekend. Monday here on Live at 4, we'll head to the movies with Will Loper to find out what's new on the big screen.
And we'll meet the author of the book, 100 Things to Do in Wisconsin Before You Die.
Better hurry up.
Yeah.
The clock's ticking. We'll be right back.
Baby sloth bears ×2 and a panda, the likes of which you've probably never seen before.
Sounds like it's time for another edition of the News Hounds.
Here's the News Hounds, Louie and Oliver, with their World News Roundup.
This week on the News Hounds, kangaroo love.
And they're on.
Plus, a most unusual sighting.
But first, not one, but 2 sloth bear cubs made their public debut at the Philadelphia Zoo this week. Born on January 2nd to their mom Kayla and the dad Baloo, the male twins lived under a den in their mother's care until they were ready to step into the outdoor habitat. The twins' birth, which marks the first pair in Philadelphia in 30 years, is an important milestone for conservation of the species, which is listed as vulnerable. Sloth bears, different from sloths, are found in India, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. They help
McGann Furniture and Flooring in Baraboo. We know that hardworking people want the most value for their money. At McGann's, we've
Jason Kelsey from the Philadelphia Eagles and Bryce Harper from the Phillies.
Perth Zoo's female Goodfellows tree kangaroo is being trained by a keeper. The female animals undergo daily pouch checks. Not only does this build strong relationships, but it allows experts to get up close to provide mental stimulation. And the tree kangaroos are...
Here is confidence in a bottle.
Not only does it change you on the outside, but something on the inside, knowing that you're looking better.
It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt in my life.
They are some of for the local shelter, the Corgi races. These 4-legged athletes are best known for being the favorite pet of the late Queen Elizabeth. While they might not have the longest legs, these speedsters have quite the kick in them. The Omaha Corgi crew has over 2,500 members and has been showing off the versatility of the challenge dogs since 2011.
And finally, footage captured by a nature reserve in China has been released showing a rare great white panda. The white panda can be seen trying to climb a tree, burrowing at the base, dragging branches. The white panda, estimated to be between 5 and 6 years old, was first sighted in 2019 and lives close to 2 other giant pandas. Experts will continue to monitor the rare panda in order to get more biological data about it. But they say this is, in fact, a giant panda, just minus the black markings. A rare sight to end the week.
And that's this week's edition of the News Hounds.
Hey, learn something every week on the News Hounds, don't you?
For real.
Catherine, thanks for helping out today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you back here Monday. News 3 Now at 5 starts right now.